Nice to meet you. Good morning. I would like to thank all of you both for being here, and I would also like to express my gratitude to the organizers of this International Journalists Forum because it serves as a, let's say, meeting point for all of us, providing an opportunity for discussion about the present and the future of journalism. This is a field that is closely tied to democracy itself. The freedom of the press is directly connected to the quality of the democratic system. The more democratic a society is, the more news and information it tends to have. News about social, society, political, economic, and cultural events is crucial because it provides people with verified, this is crucial too, verified information they can use to make better decisions for their lives, which is very important, as you can imagine. The field of journalism has undergone remarkable transformations in recent years, driven by technological advancements and shifts in media consumption habits. The very nature of media has changed with the emergence of new media. The internet and social media, in particular, have altered the terms of communication as well as the way news is produced and consumed. Given that journalism is the activity of gathering, assessing, creating, and presenting news and information, it is obvious that tremendous changes have occurred in the newsroom and in every aspect of journalism due to these changes in the media landscape and technological advances. To thrive in this dynamic landscape, young journalists must possess a diverse skill set and stay attuned to emerging trends. Therefore, we will explore the essential competences and the future education needed for young journalists to succeed in this ever-evolving field. Who are we? Nikos Panagiotou, Associate Professor, School of Journalism and Mass Media Communication. Pantelis Vatikiotis, Assistant Professor, Department of Communication and Culture, Panteion University. Marina Rigou. I'm Assistant Professor at the Department of Communication and Media of the Kapodistria National and Kapodistria University of Athens, and I'm a journalist too. And Eleni Vardaki, Odysseas Kratsas, and Athanasia Spiliopoulou are students of our university departments. So, needing to explore the essential competences and education challenges for young journalists, we had conducted a survey that will be presented by our students who work for that, okay? And they will present the results, which are indeed very interesting. Odysseas, or who? Who will begin?
We conducted a small, admittedly small research, almost 100 completed answers of a questionnaire to find answers about the essential competencies and skills of a journalist, and of course review and assess the quality of the higher education of journalists in Greece. This questionnaire is made up of 10 questions in which participants were asked to rate in importance and significance, or significance, whichever you like, certain aspects of a journalist's job and education, The scale is 1 through 5 or 6, depending on the question. 1 signifies high importance or relevance, whilst 5 or 6 low importance. And with that, I think we're ready to begin with the necessary skills and competencies. First, we asked our participants to rate the following essential competencies to be taught in a BA program. So bear with us, because we're going to have a lot of pie charts. So can everybody see the pie charts? Great. First, starting from the left, only 37% think professional skills are very important. Though if we add those who rated them as moderately important, we can see the percentage rise to about 72%. Around 50%, around half, then think technology skills are very important. I think the importance of skills, writing skills, was never in doubt, as we can see. Almost 60% rate them as very essential. However, we can see an 11% there. I think it's not a small percentage, who completely disagree with that assumption of the importance of writing skills. I think that's very interesting. We can discuss it afterward. Moving on to social orientation and responsibility. Only 48% of those who participated consider it very essential. The next two are very split, as you can see. Only a quarter of participants think IT and management skills are absolutely essential for a young journalist, or a journalist in general. A plurality of those who answered think of those skills are moderately or non-essential at all. The rise of multimedia journalism, that's the kind of journalism that uses a combination of content forms, text, audio, video, photos, is quite evident, because almost more than 70, I think, percent of questionees rated it as either very or moderately important. Finally, we can end on newsroom management and collaboration, where 41% think of it as essential. Next, we asked our students to rate in importance the following digital and communications, digital and technical skills for a journalism graduate. Data journalism and visualization was rated as very or moderately important by almost 3/4 of those who asked. Social media management was seen as very important. As search engine optimization was seen also as quite important, as you can see, though not as much as social media management. Next, we move on to content management systems, where only 43% of students rated them as very crucial. As similar percentages we can see on video and audio editing. Similarly, we asked participants to rate the following communication and interviewing skills. Effective interviewing techniques were seen as very, very highly significant. You can see 44% rated them as very, very important. And it's not a surprise that journalism students very highly value communication skills, either verbal or written, though verbal communication has a slightly higher number of participants. Cross-cultural communication falls a bit short compared to the previous ones, as does interest in communication law and regulations. Next, we asked our participants to rate the following research and critical thinking skills. Information gathering and verification were seen as very important. Almost 70% rated them as very essential, very crucial, very important. Fact-checking and accuracy of news, very important, more than 3/4. Critical analysis of news sources, very important, also, more than 75%, more than 65%, sorry. Understanding public opinion, also very important. Though, and this is quite interesting, media literacy falls a bit short, as you can see, below the 50% threshold. And with that, I think I will pass the baton off to Eleni, my colleague from the Aristotle University of Thessaloniki, to talk to you about the courses.
Hi, everyone. My name is Eleni. I am a recent graduate student of Aristotle University, Department of Journalism and Mass Media Communication. My colleagues and I, we are very excited to be here today, and we would like to thank IMED for this opportunity. So together, we will continue to the second part of this presentation. So let's talk about journalism courses. So our first question is, which types of media are more useful? As you will see in the next slides, we collected 7 different types of media. And in order to analyze better and easier the results, we use a scale from 1 to 6. So, okay, we have graphics again. Sorry for that. As you can see, the first place is won by social media, because almost 50% of the students characterize them as more useful. We have photos and audio to the second and third place too, with similar percentages. And now, at this slide, we can see that text is the winner with 51%. We have video with a light deviation from the first place with 42%. And I think it's interesting that animation has only 30%. And of course, we couldn't ignore the category of multimedia with 50% as a very useful type of media. And I think it's something that all of us expected, because, to be honest, we live in a multimedia world, so it was a result that we saw to come. So we continue to the second question. Which topics of journalism courses are more preferable or not? We use again a scale from 1 to 6 to analyze the results. And as you can see, news research and selection are the more preferable subject. We have specialized reporting and multimedia storytelling in second and third place with similar percentages. And let's see what happened in this slide. Media ethics and digital tools, okay, 41, 42%, we expected. But what happened in media and journalism history? Only 26%. And I will be honest, I expected this percent, because as a journalist student, I know that history is very important, but sometimes it's really boring. So this is good for the results, because we understand that the participants, they answer the questions with honesty. And of course, we have media literacy, a very important subject, because it's useful not only for the journalist, but for the audience too, with 35%, as characterize it as more preferable. I would like to finish my part of the presentation with this question: how valuable are specializations and electives for developing specific skills and expertise? It's a question that I personally found very interesting, and I would like to hear your thoughts afterwards. So the results was 45%, and students characterize extremely valuable the developing of specific skills and expertise. And I think it makes sense because as young students, we want to have more specific knowledge, so we have the ability to claim more opportunities for job, for better education, and more opportunities in general. So here is the ending of the part of my presentation. Thank you very much, and we will continue with my colleague Athanasia.
Thank you, Eleni. Hello, everyone. I'm Athanasia Spiliopoulou. I'm an undergraduate journalism student at the Department of Communication, Media and Culture at Panteion University here in Athens. Together, we'll take a look at the prospects, the last category of this presentation. The first question, whose results we're going to analyze, concerns the aspects that future journalists think are the most important or significant for them. Well, we can see the results that the respondents have ranked communication social skills as the most important aspect, placing it in the first place with 47%, and with great deviation from the second place. On the other hand, on the first graph concerning entrepreneurial perspective, only 16% ranked this aspect in the first place, while 33% in the second place and 18% in the third place. The same goes with opinions are divided on data knowledge, because the 52%, they rank it in the first and the second place, while the 21% in the third place. Possibly, we think that this result is due to the fact that young journalists seem a little bit skeptical about new technologies and are not yet convinced that they will be integrated and fully affect their work. Then, moving on, the same goes for the aspect of training for the market, but concerning networking and collaboration, give me a second because I've lost my notes. Okay, so regarding networking and collaboration, we see that 64% consider it a key aspect as they rank it in the first and the second place, with other places having very low percentages. Finally, almost 50% consider creativity and experience-based learning to be very important, ranking it again in the first place, followed by second place with 20%. Therefore, we know that most people consider most important aspects those related to the character of the journalist rather than those linked exclusively to his or her acquired skills. For example, creativity and communication social skills clearly can be cultivated, but of course are largely linked to the journalist's character. Now, let's move on to the next question on the importance of internships and opportunities. Here, the results speak for themselves. An overwhelming majority, the 70%, consider internships and opportunities extremely important for their career, where only a small percentage consider them not fundamental, do not consider them fundamental for their development in journalism. Last but not least, the overall satisfaction with the curriculum. Well, let's see this very crucial question. The majority of the results are split between places 2 and 3, while only 13% are very satisfied with their studies. There is, of course, the 1% who are not at all satisfied with their curriculum, and we must take this into consideration as well. Based on this data, we believe that journalism schools should modify their curriculums in order to cover as many aspects that students consider important as possible. But of course, to facilitate the access to internships and opportunities that students find fundamental for their development as well. Because it is highly important for students to be satisfied and feel as future journalists secure and confident in their studies and in their abilities, because such journalists would play a crucial part in the development of journalism in Greece. Before I finish this presentation, I would like, of course, to thank our panel curators. Let me find their names so I don't forget anybody. They are seated here in the first line, so it's Evangelia Giova, Maria Kapiri, Yannis Kotzakioulafis, and Angeliki Krokidi. Thank you guys for your help, and thank you for your presence through the presentation of these results. Now our professors would reflect and focus on these results. Thank you.
Great job. Thank you very much, all of you and the ones who are sitting over there, for this great collaboration, which I think is also very related to what we're coming to discuss today. So, when we look at this indicative mapping of the trends among university students in journalism in Greece, I think we can see several areas that are addressed for us, for the educators, in order to reflect. If we move to the second here, yes, thank you. These are the areas that we try to reflect on in terms of designing programs and curricula, the reflection on the competencies and skills, and of course the teaching methods. Let me start with the most challenging figure that came out of this analysis, this 13% who are actually very satisfied with the curriculum. Okay, if we read it in general, in terms of the general satisfaction, it sounds better, it's 52%, but still I think we have to see through the lens of this reflection. And let's start with the usual suspect, this kind of the relationship between theory and practice. So we can read this need of balance between the two in terms of the findings of the survey. For example, the skills that rated as the most important were writing skills, 59%, multimedia journalism, 51%, and very close to them is social orientation or responsibility, 48%. When specified also to the importance of research and critical thinking skills, the ones that rated as the most important are fact-checking and accuracy, 78%, information gathering and verification, 69%, and critical analysis of news stories. Regarding also the courses, the top-rated ones are news research and selection, 56%, media ethics, 42%, and then digital tools, 41%. These are, I think, indicative of the need to work on the relationship between theory and practice, meaning that the core content of the training should consist of this kind of interplay between knowledge, skills, and critical thinking. Of course, still there is a lot of debate regarding the exact nature of this kind of relationship, which I think is very much related with the second challenge here, the media skills and the industry. But before moving to the second challenge, let's see what Nikos and Marina think about the first dimension here.
Thank you, all of you, and you, Pantelis. So for that parameter, the theory and practice, I think that is a dichotomy which is of utmost importance. In journalism studies, there is a shift towards practice. Curriculum programs include numerous courses that focus on skills related to the new tools provided by technological advancements, and it is obviously necessary for young journalists to acquire these skills. However, I would like to highlight 2 points. Firstly, young people are native to the world of new technologies. This means that they easily learn, if they don't already know, about issues related to new technologies. Of course, I could mention that there are still some who struggle with producing multimedia content, which is quite surprising in today's era. Anyway, the second thing that I would like to stress is that these skills can be rapidly improved in the field itself by practicing journalism. I mean, it's easy. What is difficult to acquire and requires time and a desire of knowledge is theory. Young journalists are unlikely to find time apart from their studies to fill the gaps in theory. What do I mean by theory? Basically, it includes essential and significant elements of history, sociology, politics, and institutions. It forms the basis for understanding what is happening, interpreting and making judgments. Ethical issues are, of course, necessary as well. They cannot be unaware of cultural matters, and also the world is changing, and we must have the skills and the tools to understand what's happening, and so to take decisions for our lives, and journalists are responsible for that. And that's why I think that theory is needed, as well as the practice part of this curriculum. Let's see the media skills and the industry, which is another part, we could say, for having a discussion. But before that, I would like to tell you that I asked ChatGPT what things, I could say he or she thinks about the essential competences for young journalists. What ChatGPT said, media literacy, it was the first thing that was uploaded. That was less than 50% in our survey, which is interesting. But as ChatGPT says, in a world saturated with information, journalists must be adopting the distinguishing fact from fiction. Young journalists should possess strong media literacy skills, enabling them to critically evaluate sources. That's it, the main point, evaluate sources. Many sources, many facts, which are not facts, that's it. You know, it is the, let's say, the meta-truth era. So we have to navigate the complexities of the digital information ecosystem. Digital proficiency, storytelling, ethical journalism, adaptability, multilingual and cross-cultural competence, data journalism, audience engagement, collaboration skills are among these, let's say, essential competences for young journalists that ChatGPT thinks that they must have. Of course, you know that ChatGPT takes data from our world, so it's not something that it is, let's say, different than what we are saying here. But it is interesting, and it is interesting to talk with ChatGPT and use it in the newsroom. So, saying about media skills and the industry, it is very interesting that what they need in media industry is the practical part. But having practical part, it is, let's say, what is crucial, it is to have the theoretical point of view. That's what I would like to say. Nikos.
I would like actually to thank, expressing all of us, the group that came together in order to complete this survey in a very challenging and crucial time period around mid of the summer. So the aim was actually to understand our audience. Do we run this kind of surveys? Yes. Each department, each school, every year, every semester, runs this type of surveys, requesting from the students to evaluate their curriculum. But what was innovative in this specific study, it was the fact that we actually combined the three departments in order to get an understanding of our audience, expectations, satisfaction, and actually their demands. There's a lot of discussion taking place regarding whether we need theory, and even beyond that, some argue that we don't need any more the journalistic schools. We have to abolish them. Through this survey, what it comes actually, and it is underlined, in order to connect it with the previous panel, it is the importance of media ethics. Before, a couple of years ago, we all remember that whenever we were having a discussion about media ethics, our students would get bored, they would consider too much of philosophical discussion. But now we reached to a specific point, and especially through the implementation of AI where these questions are existential. So the question goes back, and we will have actually to understand and underline that journalistic schools are not technical schools. They are not actually teaching skills for today that it will be abolished in a couple of months. What it comes out of the survey, it is the necessity or the agony, even much more, of the young and aspiring journalists and content creators to come up with a broader understanding of what happens and what takes place, not even today, but actually how it will correspond to challenges of the future. This is how we consider important the increased responses, positive responses, in the necessity to develop verifying skills, critical skills, as well as elements that it will allow the students to correspond to the emerging trends regarding creating content for various platforms. Last but not least, I will emphasize the following, that it came to my disappointment the lack of understanding of the importance of developing actual entrepreneurial skills. More and more, as it results from the two days event now discussions, it comes up the necessity for the journalists and even the content creators to have skills that it will allow them actually to be able to move on crowdfunding in order to be able actually to correspond to a business model that it is flourishing, it goes away. So since we have the development of cross-border journalism, we have the development of freelancing journalism, this skill, we consider that it is kind of essential and it relates. And the last comment regarding the media skills and the industry. There is a widespread myth arguing that we, the journalistic schools, will live in our bubble and we don't equip our students with the skills that they need. But as it results from this actually statistical data from a Pointers Institute survey, we will see that even if our graduates do possess these skills, less and less these skills are being paid. So in order to bridge the gap between the industry and the academia, it is needed actually the industry to be adapted to the new skills required. Pantelis?
Yes, let me add here one more dimension regarding this relation between the media industry and education organizations. Obviously, there is a growing tendency of collaboration, and this is beneficial for both parts. But serving the media industry interest and the public is not always the same. So it seems that the education must find a place to negotiate, let's say, its place between the two. And some of the points that were raised here, if we include also the limited resources, for example, that the universities, at least the public ones, have, plus what Nikos mentioned about this short-lived nature of some technological developments and platforms. I think this is important in order to think to what extent it is achievable and, let's say, applicable to try to satisfy all these kind of different skills and needs, or we have to choose between them, which actually I think it's related with the third challenge that is addressed here about the teaching methods. There are the very well-established practices in the universities. I mean, we have the input for the professional journalist, project-based learning, and the individual feedback. I think what is needed more probably is to introduce more innovative ways of teaching, including experiential, peer group, and community-oriented learning. And here, just to reflect on the journalist input, we can add one more kid on the block. And I mean the increasing development of the independent, small case scale news outlets, especially in Greece, since the crisis, the financial ones. We have exceptional cases and projects that they are doing a very good job. And I think their feedback, their input, can be prolific and productive in many ways, infusing this, let's say, culture of innovation, and at the same time highlighting that the future trends for journalists lie in a slow and hopefully sustainable journalism. And maybe here Nikos and Marina can add on this point.
I would say for media curricula that it is important to bridge theory and practice. And the way we are teaching, it is very important to take the consideration of students to what things are changing. Media, of course, change, and we live in a world where everything is changing. So we must adapt continual learning. Journalism is a field where learning never stops. And education should instill a passion for continual learning and adaptation, encouraging young journalists to stay updated with industry trends and emerging technologies. Curriculum must change, but on the other hand, they must stay in the past, I could say, because I insist that theory is needed. We must know the history. We must know all about politics. I am always surprised what our students say about politics. They know nothing, which is very disappointing. I would try to tell them what's happening there, but they don't know even the main things about institutions. Institutions, I mean, how the political system works. And this is a problem. On the other hand, you have to do things that are practical. For example, you have to have, let's say, a newspaper, a student's newspaper, or a radio station, which is not difficult in these days, a magazine. So you should have practical lessons and then experiment on these fields. I don't know if you had to add something on that, Nikos.
Yes, I think that it is important in this discussion to include the media industry by opening up universities as a lifelong learning opportunity even for professional journalists. Because we have seen that this is another important request that comes from the industry as well, in order for the research and innovation that takes place inside the universities to be able to be connected with the media professionals and even tested and even actually provide them skills and opportunities to be able to survive in the new media landscape. Because just have in mind the following: how critical are the roles of journalistic schools in a media environment that it is actually standing in a very critical moment. Lack of funding, lack of trust, disbelief, and at the same time, a widespread communication landscape. How they can address to that? This is why the role of journalistic schools, it is more than essential in order to build up a coalition that it will be able to equip media industry and especially the young professionals with the tools that they need in order to correspond to these challenges. And I consider, and I think that this is a belief that we all share, that this survey is very optimistic in a way that we manage, even in these kind of times, we have managed to correspond not only to current trends, but equally to competencies that are required for the day after. Thank you.
Great. I think we have covered the challenges, and we are exactly on time because we agreed to guarantee 10 minutes to have also your own reflections. We have a very diverse audience here, including researchers, journalists, professors across the world. So we would be very much interested in having your own feedback and your own reflections according to your experience on this kind of issues. So please feel free to contribute. Yeah. There is one over there, here. Thank you.
Hi, thank you very much for that. My name is Catherine Fleming. I really enjoyed your session. I understand that journalism as a discipline may not have the same underlying history of methodology that other disciplines do because it is changing so quickly. It does, however, have underlying principles connected to free speech and the freedom of the press. And journalistic ethics, and I'd be very interested in hearing either students or teachers or anybody talk about how they keep those embedded in a curriculum that by definition is changing all the time. Thank you.
Thank you. Probably the students should respond firstly, because we tend to speak a lot, so I think that young people should respond first. You want to go ahead?
Hello. Thank you for the question. It's a very good question, actually, because, as you said before, our curriculum changes all the time. So I think that students and professors were trying to have a balance between what happened today, but also what ethics and history we have to respect and sorry, και να το εφαρμόσουμε τέλος πάντων. Ευχαριστώ. Και να τα εφαρμόσουμε και έξω και στην καθημερινή μας ζωή, αλλά και στη δουλειά. So, back in English again. It's difficult, and I'm not sure that there is a specific answer or a clear answer, but talking about the Aristotle University as a student, I know that we have professors that they really have passion for this job, and they are trying with different kinds of subjects and topics to help students to understand this new world of media. So I think that it's very early to give a specific and a permanent answer. But I think that we have like a subject as law and journalism. We have to learn about some specific ethics that we should respect. But yeah, I don't know if the other students want to come.
Well,
thank you.
Well, me representing Panteion University, the Department of Communication, Media and Culture, we have professors that really want to teach us the ethics of journalism and the history. The problem about Panteion University is that there is not a specific lesson, a subject about ethics. So that's something I want to say here today, because it is very crucial to be such a lesson, a subject in the curriculum. But in all other labs that we have, our professors try to teach us by their own perspective the ethics and the history of journalism, as well as the current events that we have to be informed about. But I think that we should take into consideration the specific subject of ethics in every journalism curriculum, because it is very important for future journalists to be informed about what ethics should be respected as a professional journalist. That's all from me. Thank you.
I completely agree with what Athanasia and Eleni said, of course. And building upon what my professor said, that if you really need to have these guiding principles ingrained in the students' minds, methodology, ethics, freedom of speech, freedom of expression. You really have to go back to the basics. Teach the students theory. Thank you very much. Very briefly.
If I may add something to that. I think the importance of our curriculum is the fact that it becomes more and more cross-disciplinary. It stands being just a sole disciplinary, focusing only in what it has been considered as traditional journalistic courses. In order to, we come across with a generation that more and more needs to be taught through specific hands-on learning. This is why in all journalistic schools we have introduced actually verification of news in order actually to address to a more and more needed element, which is tackling disinformation. More and more we have, we're discussing a lot about, and this is where media ethics fits, on the topic of freedom of speech, but most importantly, on about accurate reporting. Because these issues will remain totally vague unless we restore trust with the public. This is what media lost, actually. They are not trusted, so no one follows them. So this becomes the essence of our efforts in order to be able to restore this broken trust. Thank you.
Hello, thank you so much for your presentation. I'd like to address a question to the students specifically, but anyone who wants to add anything, I would appreciate it. I'm a student in the National and Kapiri University of Athens in the Communication and Mass Media faculty. I believe that the three of you have talked with many of your upcoming colleagues, and you've heard of the phrase, "No, I don't think I want to be a journalist. I want to do something else because of the suppression of the freedom of the speech, because of media ownership, blah, blah, blah." How do you, as people who want to be journalists or not, what do you think about this specific phrase or this specific mindset, and what do you think we should do as students, and what do our schools have to do about fixing this idea and this mindset of our students that want to do something, but they feel suppressed? Thank you.
So just a word I would to add to your question. You didn't say something about salaries.
Of course, we've heard about this phrase. Probably in the beginning of our studies, maybe we have said that phrase too. But, well, I don't blame those students that say these things. I will begin with the curriculum, what the journalism schools should do. They should show us that journalism is an essential part of this society, of a democratic society. So that would be like subjects that have to do with future journalism, with new journalism, like podcasts, data journalism, not like the mainstream mass media. We know mainstream mass media. We want to learn the new things, what is in the future. But what we should do, like as future journalists, as students, of course, we should be considerate consumers of the news. We should know how to be informed, first of all, because we're going to inform people, so we have to be perfectly informed. So yes, we have to love journalism through consuming the news, as citizens, simple citizens. And I think that after that, as future journalists, we're going to see how this job works, and we want to show other people too. I don't think if I think that I covered your question, so I will let other students talk to Sue.
Hello. Okay. I completely agree with Athanasia, and I completely agree with you, because we hear this phrase like every year. If we're graduate students or not, we hear this phrase. And the only thing that I have to say to the students is seriously don't care. I know it's not the easiest thing, but if you really want to do something, you will find the way to do it right and with your own way. And I know that when someone hears that, oh, okay, so you are studying journalism. Okay, nice. No, they think that you want to be a TV presenter or something like this. I mean, journalism is not only this. It has a lot of different aspects, and the problem is that in Greece we focus only in the bad aspects, which obviously exist. We don't live in another world. But as a student, I think that if you have passion for something, just follow your heart. I know it's a little bit cliché, but this is the reasons we have the cliché. So yes, do your thing, and people always say something bad for you or for everyone, so just don't care.
And very briefly from me, I think the response university professors and from university professors and students is giving their students proper guidance to navigate through the bad aspects of Greek journalism. I think I will end there on proper guidance.
So,
thank you very much.
Time is over.
And
Pantelis.
hopefully we can talk further during the break. Thanks.